Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. On today's episode, we are going into the way back machine in more ways than one. I don't do a whole lot of ancient gaming. It's a very small portion of my collection. But today, on this episode, I am going way back. Going back to not so much the Cataphract here, the Great Battles of History, which I used to own until I got away from set-piece battles. I got rid of all of them except this one, and the reason that I kept this one is right here. The campaign game Justinian. So we're going into the Wayback Machine. This was done in 1999, almost 20 years ago now. And going even further back topic-wise, as we prepare to reconquer the Roman Empire, the Emperor Justinian. And this is the time period of the great Byzantine general Belisarius and Narses. Which, by the way, Byzantine is a term that we use. The folks, if you had a time machine, a Wayback Machine, to quote Mr. Peabody, you would find that if you landed in Constantinople, say in, the year 950 for argument's sake, those folks there would not recognize the term Byzantine. They called themselves Romans until the day Constantinople fell, May the 29th, 1453, to the invading armies of Suleiman. I forget which one he was. But anyway, those dudes that came after Constantinople and finally managed to defeat and capture the city. So, just a little technical thing there. Byzantine Empire, always been one of my interested topics in the ancient world that I've always kind of dug into a little bit of depth. I've always been fascinated by it over the years. So, this game is a Richard Berg game, again found inside Cataphract. It is a light, easy game. It's designed to be a two-player game, I should say, but it's very easy to play solitaire with just a few simple adjustments. So, let's go ahead and let's get started here. As you can see, I've already moved into here. Turn 3 is where we're going to pick up our story. Okay, and you can see here the different colors, the areas of the empire are color-coded. Those are important because in order to win the game, you must control 2/3 of each of the prefectures, and you must control every city and every 2-value income space in that area. So, for example, here in Egypt, which Egypt has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you would need to control 6 of those, and you would have to control Egyptus 2, Arcadia here, Thebalis Inferior, Thebalis Superior, Augustaminia 1, and of course these cities also are in the same place with some of the income. Some places they don't have the cities in income spaces in the same spot, for lack of a better way to put it. That's very bad articulate, but let me show you right here. Like here's this space. So in the African prefecture, in the African provinces, you would have to control Carthage, but then you would also have to control Sardinia here, which has a 2-value income-wise. So, and as you can see, I've been busy at work here. I've been beating on the Vandals some, but now I got to get some fleets moved around to get one of my generals there. Up here in Italy, I've been pounding on the Ostrogoths, but things aren't going quite so well there. And then over here in the East has been a disaster because the Persians have been activated twice already, and the Persians just have 2 decent leaders and can have a mountain of manpower. So it's very, very, very difficult for the Byzantines to win this thing. So anyway, it is a challenging game. I've played this a number of times over the years. So first thing we do every single turn is we collect income. Okay. Now, of course, you lose income if the enemy owns certain spaces, and I just usually go right down the prefectures here. So in Africa, Byzantines only own 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces right now. So that would be an income of 4 from Africa. Egypt, we have all of it there, which is a total of 15. So 4 and 15, that's 19. Euricium is 13, which I also own. So 19 and 13 is, here we go. Well, 20 and 13 is 33, so 32. Italy, I don't own a whole lot in Italy. I only own 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces there. So 32 and 4, that's 36. And then the East, which of course is the richest part of the empire. I don't own a whole lot there either, unfortunately. So I have 36 that I do have for income. And let's see, I'm losing 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 from the 51. So that's, let's see, 41, that's 39, right? Yeah, so 39 and 36, 40 and 36 would be 76, so 75, okay? And up here at the top of the map, there are tracks, there they are, where you can use to keep track of your money, but also keep track of the Byzantine armies. Each army has its markers there, and you can keep them on the track and continue on. Now, 75 income is really good because right now I actually have an income of 103, mostly because I've already captured the Vandal and Ostrogoth treasuries and took gambles on that. When you capture the treasuries, you can either A, roll 10 dice and add up the totals. In this game, it's a 10-sided die, and a 0 is a 0. So if you roll 0, that's bad. Or you can gamble, roll a single die, and multiply that number by 10. If you roll 0, you multiply it by 1, and you end up with 10. I was very lucky. The Vandals, I rolled an 8, and the Ostrogoths, I rolled a 4. So that was a boatload of money, which, of course, money, as we all know through history, is needed to fund any kind of wars. So let me go ahead and add this here. So 75, so we put that in the 7 spot. 3 5s are 8. And I've got a boatload of money, which is good, because now I'm going to need to pay people if I want to keep them moving along here. Okay. Now we also do at this point Barbarian removal phase. Now in the game there are 3 permanent, well, permanent in the sense of there always can be activated each turn, groups of barbarians. There are the Vandals, which I've whittled down to 1 leader here. There are the Ostrogoths, who basically begin by dominating Italy. And then, of course, there are the Persians over here in the east. Now, around the edges, if you look here, you can see there's also a bunch of other barbarians. And these can be activated randomly by a die roll. When they invade, they basically will attack. And what I always have them do to, because if it was a 2-player game, it's what I do with my barbarians. I basically try to get them to the cities and hang on to those places. Partly because what's about to happen here in the barbarian removal phase is any barbarian forces that are not Ostrogoths or Persians or Vandals that are not in a city, province, at the beginning of this phase, they will be removed from the map and taken back to their boxes where they go. So right now I have the Alemanni, which are here in Milan, so they'll get to stay. Over here, and again, the east is a mess. I'll just zoom in to show you just how bad a mess this is. Look at that. Look at that. The whole Levant is in trouble. Okay? Here, these guys are in Jerusalem, so they'll get to stay. Here, these guys are in what's basically Beirut. They'll get to stay. And again, the Persians always get to stay, so that's no issue there. So far in the first 2 turns, I've been doing pretty well in the western half here. I've been having trouble in the east, mostly because since the Persian armies came out so big and so strong, I kind of ignored that and have been focusing on trying to crush the Vandals and the Ostrogoths and then turn the full weight of my forces and manpower to the east. So, that's what's going on there with the barbarian removal phase. Alright, now I have to pay. So basically you have to pay everything. Everything in the game mostly costs 1 gold. Fleets cost 1 gold to maintain. Field armies cost 1 gold to maintain. Now there are, zooming in here on Greece, there are frontier troops. Those cost 1 gold for every multiple of 3. So for example, if you have 15 frontier troops on the board, it would cost you 5 gold. 3 divided by 15 would cost you the 5 gold there to maintain all of them on the map. So it is more cost effective. However, since they have no leaders and stuff, they have negative modifiers when it comes to battle because they are frontier troops. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see here how much money I'm going to end up spending. And I'm going to have to use my phone calculator because, again, if I told you guys before, math was never my strong point. I was always a history, language arts kind of guy. Language arts, taught middle school too long. That's what they call it, middle school English. class kind of guy. Okay, so let's see here now. So we'll start here, and I'll kind of talk about the armies a little bit too. We'll start here with the 2 armies that must remain in the presence of the emperor. They can't move more than 4 movement points away. So those guys will cost me 20 gold. They're each 10 strength apiece. My army in the east here currently stands at a strength of 29, and all the armies have limits. Right here, this chart on the back of the rulebook, you can see there they will tell you where you place them at start, and then their movement, how far can they go, because they can only go into certain areas of the map. Like here, like the army of Eurikium, which I've been using a lot, begins in Dalmatia, is to end its activation either in Eurikium or Italy, one or the other. And if I'm mispronouncing that Eurikium, I picked that up somewhere years ago, so I've always thought that was the right way to pronounce it. If I'm wrong, by all means, someone share, and I will make adjustments as needed. Because, of course, I always like to learn, too. So, 29 for that. Now, down here in Africa, I also have another army that my army of Africa is currently at a strength of, let's see, 16. So I'm going to need to pay those guys. Because if you don't pay your guys, there is a random event where they can mutiny. And if they mutiny, you're talking about serious problems here. My recommendation, pay people. Okay, and try to use your armies most efficiently as possible. My army of Eurikium is a strength of 20. No, 20. Yes, their strength of 23. So I'll need to pay those guys. So that's 23 more gold out of my coffers. And then last but not least, the army of Thrace, which currently stands at a strength of 15. Whoops, 15. I hit 25 on my phone. 15. Now, I have 4 fleets, so that'll be 4 more gold for that. And then frontier troops right now, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, and 5 is 13, and then we round down, that's 4 more there. So that is 111 off my 178. Now, you might ask yourself, what do you need the rest of the gold for? Well, you need the gold for 2 things, as I drop down here to 67. You need the gold, number 1, because you need 2 gold to move an army and activate an army on any given part of the turn. Each turn is made up of 5 alternating impulses, if you will, between the barbarians and the Byzantine player. The other thing is you can use your gold to bribe random barbarians whenever they become activated. And that then can be spent for the allegiance die roll. Let me roll. Let me zoom in on that table. It's right here. Okay. So you can see here on the 10-sided die, it's hard to get them to be Byzantine allied, but if you spend up to, and you can spend up to 9 gold, you're going to get a +3 modifier on that. Now each barbarian has their own modifier that impacts that. For example, here the Utiger, I think, Huns have a +1 modifier. So right off the bat, they're kind of inclined towards the Byzantines to begin with. And if you end up on the allegiance die roll, getting them to be Byzantine allies, then the Byzantine player gets to use them when they activate. So random really does kind of mean random in this game. Okay? So now I've paid everybody. Alright? Awesome. Now, raise new Byzantine strength points. And this is pretty simple. You just roll a 10-sided die. I rolled a 6. Now I can spread those strength points around anywhere that I want to. What I'm going to do right now, though, is I'm going to take half of those strength points and put them in the army in the east. So 9 3s are 12. That's going to take the army in the east up to 32. And then the other 3 I'm going to put over here in Italy to get these guys built up to finish the Italian campaign against the Ostrogoths and try to finish that off and get people moving around from there. Now, during the turn, the Byzantine player has certain actions they can do, and one thing they can do is they can spend an entire impulse, basically raising strength points. Now, then, of course, the danger is you roll a die, it's a 0, guess what? You wasted your time, and, you know, suppose they gave a war and nobody came, kind of thing. Okay? Alright, now, I can create one new Byzantine army with 10 strength points right off the bat. No sweat, okay? If any are available. I do have a few available still. I have the Army of Africa. I also have the Army of Armenia, which I'm going to need here later because up here in Armenia, again, you can see in the east that everything is just gone off the rails there already here early in the game. But I'm not building a new army. I really don't feel the need to do that. Okay, so we're not going to build a new army. All right. Now, leader segment. I can add or replace a mag mill, which is short, basically slang maybe term for the leader of Byzantine forces. Like for example, here we have this Byzantine leader. Okay. And the numbers there, the 5 is his control number. After battles, you roll a die, and if you roll equal to or less than that number, then you keep your army under control, which is important because if you can't keep them under control, you got to spend movement points to get them under control. The letter B, used in the middle column there, is used with the movement table. You roll a die and cross-reference. The higher the letter, A through D, the more likely you are to have a lot of movement points to do stuff. And the last number is the combat factor, where they get to add 1 to the die roll each time. Okay, so right now, I still have in the cup both Narses and Belisarius. This leader here in Italy, I'm not real keen on him. He's only got 2C, and that's not a whole lot of anything there. So anytime he wins a battle, he's probably going to lose control of his troops, and they're going to be going looting, pillaging, and causing all kinds of chaos and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and replace him. Alright, hold your breath. Here we go. Who'd we get? Oh, look at that. Couldn't ask for better luck. Check it out. Not to sound like John Mellencamp. Oh man, look at that. The glare's bad. Let me see if I can get this to fix a little better here. There we go. Is that better? Seems like it's better. No. Now it's better. There. It's Belisarius. So, couldn't ask for anything better. So this guy's relieved this... And look, I'm not going to lie. Ancient world tongues are not my forte. This A dude, so to speak, who was defeated last time, he is removed. And now Belisarius takes over command. Yeah, alright. Only problem is there's a random event where Justinian can recall one of the military leaders. So, because Justinian was very jealous, particularly Belisarius, if you know anything about the history of the Byzantine Empire at this time. Okay? Alright, so now we're on to the activation phase. So the activation phase, again, is a series of impulses that go back and forth. Look, oops, I almost forgot one more thing, but I'll still show you the activation thing. You can see here, so it starts off, the Barbarians get 1, then the Byzantines, and all the way down to 5, and then the turn is over. I did forget, sorry about this, but here you can see on the turn track, sometimes the Barbarians get new leaders as time goes by. So the Ostrogoths are going to get this new guy, who kicks out the old guy. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Oops, sorry, that's something else. So, sorry about that, forgot to put him down. You got to kind of watch that on the turn track with the game. That's the only way the Barbarians get any kind of new leaders. The random Barbarians, the ones around the fringes of the map, they're just basically generic counters. An amalgamation, if you will, of all the particular barbarian leaders who controlled that particular tribe throughout history. So, let's go ahead here. Now, for solo purposes, what I've done is I've taken the 5 activation markers, I've laid them face down, and I'm going to roll a die. And let's see who gets active. Okay, it's a die roll of 9, so 6, 7, 8. It's going to be this one. So, the first activation for the Barbarians is a random one. Okay, so what we do now is we roll 2 dice. And you read these as 10s, 1s kind of thing. So like for example here, I just rolled this. And this is going to come out with the color die being the first number. Came out as, whoops, 17, okay? Now, a couple things about this roll. Every time there's a random activation of Barbarians, that die roll also serves as a potential trigger for a random event. Now, if the sum of the 2 dice equals 10 or more, then you roll on the random event table. Random events can be everything from troop mutinies to religious disputes to politics to Justinian bills. It's going to suck on the Treasury, so to speak. And, of course, the dreaded plague, which there was issues with that at this time. The plague is also a problem because it can end the game prematurely. The second time you get a plague result, the game's over. So you really, really got to be hustling, especially after that first plague result. Okay. So I rolled the 17. So let's go ahead and let's come over here and I'll show you the Barbarian chart. The random events chart is over here too. So let's just go ahead and zoom in. So you can see the random event chart there at the bottom. There's a good example of one of the random or nondescript barbarian leaders there. And there's the random events, and then there's this huge chart here that's all the barbarians. So you roll a die and then you consult it. So we rolled a 17. So 17 is actually the vandals. Okay, now that can happen. You can have one of the big three, Ostrogoths, Vandals, and Persians, be rolled as an active individual. So that is a possibility to have that happen. Okay. Now, the first time the Vandals are activated, they do get the chance to roll for manpower. And if you look at this column here, you can see that it lists the manpower that you get. So, like for the Vandals, it's 1 plus the die roll. A lot of other ones, it's only the die roll. However, for the Persians, notice it's 20 plus 3. So you better hope for some zeros there, man. Because like the first Persian army that activated on me on the first turn, I rolled, I think, 15. So it's like 35 strength points, which is a massive army that the Persians put into the field. It was gigantic. Okay? So, first turn, and only the first turn, when you have the big three activated, you can try to get more manpower. So we'll do that first. So the Vandals actually got a nice die roll. They got 10 extra strength points. Okay? And the points basically used for them in this game are the hit point counters that are used in the great battles of history series, because of course, again, Cataphract comes with this here. Now you can put them in any controlled province that you want. Again, it's harder, it makes them weaker if you don't put them with a leader. So I'm going to stack them with the only Vandal leader that's left, hanging out in Sardinia. That's it. And basically for the Vandals, unfortunately, they're in a position now where it's kind of like your best bet is to wait and build up. They lost their fleet. That fleet was destroyed when Carthage fell. So they're not in a very good spot. Okay, and you will find that as the game goes on. As the Byzantine player, you really want to concentrate on either the Vandals or the Ostrogoths right off the bat and try to give them a severe beating as quickly as possible. So as the Vandals, I'm just going to sit back and basically say, look, Byzantium, I'm in Sardinia. Sardinia's got an income value of 2. I know you need it to win the game. Come get some. So they'll just hang out and sit still. Okay. Now, the Byzantine player. The Byzantine player, whenever they are activated, they have a couple of choices again. They can spend 2 gold, activate any army on the map, roll, find out movement points, that sort of thing. Okay. They also can go ahead. Whoops, this got flipped on me when I was showing him off. He was disorganized. He didn't lose that last battle. There is a difference between the two. I can move a leader all by himself, leaving the army behind. So I can switch leaders around if I want to, but that takes some time. In order to do that, I can raise more troops, or I can just do nothing and pass, which you can't afford to do that, quite frankly, as the Byzantine player. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to get ready and prepare for war. Now, one of the things I'm going to have to obviously have is a fleet to move troops to get to Sardinia eventually here. Now, let me just check the transportation rules, because I'll be honest with you, I very, very rarely, if ever, end up transporting troops in this game. Basically, it's just to these couple of key islands that are needed. Otherwise, you know, I mean, I just don't really use them, to be honest about it all. So, let's see here now. Oh, come on, man. Where? Oh, here we go. Transport. Okay. Fleet can transport. Each fleet can carry up to 10 strength points. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to activate my fleets here off the coast here near the city of Halicarnassus. And I'm going to go ahead and send them down to Carthage, which is Byzantine control because there is no enemy marker there. I'm going to go ahead and sail, as Christopher Cross would say, down to there, which each fleet, if I remember correctly, gets 4 movement points. As you can see, I really haven't used my fleets here to start the game at all. So let's see. Okay. I'm pretty sure there's something ringing in the back of my mind that tells me it's 4 movement points. Nope, 2. I was wrong. Half. Alright, so I can move 2 here. Alright, so I'll go ahead and move these guys I'll send them 1 and then 2. I'll have to bring them to Alexandria. So that's, yeah, that's not quite what I wanted to do. That's taking too much time. I may put that on the back burner. But again, if I put it on the back burner too long, then I'm going to have to really build up that army to attack the Vandals in Sardinia if I wait way too long. Okay, so I have to spend 2 gold to do that because it was 1 stack of fleet units. So down we go. And now we're on to the next Barbarian activation, which is marker number 1. And that's a select one. Now, in a 2-player game, that means that the Barbarian player would get to select the Ostrogoths, the Vandals, or the Persians. For solo play, and again, this game is not easy to win. I just do a die roll, assigning each of them, you know, number 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4. So let's see who it's going to be. It is going to be the Ostrogoths. So the Ostrogoths will get this one here. Now, first turn, they can raise manpower. So they'll go ahead and do that because they know there's going to be a showdown coming here soon. But now that the Treasury has been lost, he rolled a 1. You're going to give 1 more point of manpower. Well, hey, 1 is better than none. Or as my old man always likes to say, it only takes 1 to win. So you never know, that 1 point of manpower could be critical. Okay. Now, I'm really thinking about trying to take the Ostrogoths and march them down to Sicily. Because Sicily is a value of 4. And again, you have to come after it if you're the Byzantines. But should I make them run or should I go ahead and let them sit there? And that way I can show you guys an example of a battle easier. I could have them attack the Byzantine army too before they have a chance to get organized, but it is Belisarius. I'm going to have them sit there and just hold on to the situation there. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Alright, next activation for the Byzantines. Speaking of Belisarius, I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 of my gold. Yeah, I almost said geek gold. Can you believe that? And now I roll a die. Oh, it was only a 1. Now, Belisarius, though, is one of the big dogs. He has an A movement rating. So what we do now here is, when you get ready to move units, you come up here to the movement chart, which is right here. Okay, and unfortunately I rolled a 1. And you just cross-reference. So a 1, that still gives me 5 movement points that I can use. Now basically moving province to province costs you 1 movement point. Crossing straits costs you more. It costs you a separate movement point to initiate attack. It also costs you movement points to remove disorganized and defeated markers as well too. Okay? So I've got 5 movement points for Belisarius, and I do want Belisarius to attack the enemy here as quickly as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 4 of those 5 points to remove the defeated marker. And Belisarius has 1 point left. And with that 1 point, I'm going to go ahead and march south into, where are we at here? Samnius, which is where Rome is. And that way I'll be ready to fight next turn. You can do that in this game. You can move into, you can actually move through a province that has an enemy force because this is such a high level game. Now I could have sent Belisarius back up here to defeat the Alemanni, and maybe I should have because that is holding that hostage to value city of Milan hostage, but the Ostrogoths can grow, the Alemanni cannot. Once you know barbarian forces on the map, you're not going to be able to move it around and stuff, so I'll just go ahead and leave well enough alone there. So let's see what the next barbarian activation is. It is going to be another select one. Interesting. So here we go again. The court license. So it is again going to be the Ostrogoths. Now, should the Ostrogoths attack? They've already raised manpower, so they can't do it again this turn. I can't move manpower points that are barbarian points without a leader. I can drop off, so I could leave some troops there. But again, that doesn't quite show you the full flavor of the battle. So again, for the purposes of this, because I am getting ready to fight a battle here with Belisarius, I will go ahead and just leave him sit there and sit still so we can show you a nice, juicy battle. Alright, Byzantines, next activation. I think you know what's coming here. We're going to activate Belisarius. Oh, come on, man. It's a 0. Ah. All right. Well, let's see. A 0 with an A, that's still at least 4 points. So, whoops, that's at least something. All right, so I've got 4 movement points I can use here. So let's go ahead and let's zero in here on the Battle of Samnius, aka one could say the Battle of Rome. All right. Now you see the Ostrogoth control marker there. Even if you defeat the Ostrogoth army, you're still going to have to spend movement points to remove that marker, basically going through the province and securing it, if you will. Okay, so let's go ahead and count up our forces here, and we'll do our attacker first. So Belisarius has the army of Eurikium, which is a strength of 16. The Ostrogoths have 25, 32, 33 strength points. So they're going to get a bonus die roll there. Okay. And up here at the top of the chart, there are a bunch of die roll modifiers. So let's look at them all. Plus strength differential, well, not for Belisarius. He's got the weaker force. Defender is in a city province. Yes, he is. So that's -2 to the die roll. Leader battle rating is a 2, so that evens that out. It's 0. Okay, we're not crossing a straight. Byzantine army against any non-Persian defender. Superior use of cavalry. If you know anything about the Cataphract, that was basically an armored horse. It was the core of the Byzantine army. They trained so hard with those forces that it was said that the Byzantines could fight with both hands simultaneously. They could get their horses going at a full gallop and could steer the horse with their just nudging with their knees, even at a full gallop, and control the beast, which that's just ridiculous amount of training and stuff, which of course also means that risking battle was, well, just that, risky for the Byzantines. Okay, so that's going to give us a +1 modifier. Okay, attacker Ostrogoth, nope, attacker Vandal, attacker Disorganized. So the Byzantines are going to get +1 added to their die roll. Now the Ostrogoths, they do have a strength differential, and basically it works on multiples, or ratios, if you will. So if you have more, even 1 strength point more, you get +1. If you end up with 2 times as much, then you end up with +2, +3, all the way up through, I forget where it finally stops at. But here, it's 33 to 16, so the Ostrogoths will get a +2. Leader battle rating is 0, so that doesn't affect anything here, so we're still at +2. Defender is not detached. Defender is not disorganized. Defender is not defeated. However, it is an Ostrogoth army, which automatically gives it a -1. So they actually end up with just a +1 also. So in other words, this is coming down to a die roll. So let's see what happens here. That was not the die roll. That was the dice roll. So let's see what happens here. So Belisarius has had those low rolls. Let's see if that's finally going to even itself out here. No, it did not. Okay. So, we have an 8, which will be turned into a 9 for the Ostrogoths. Let me come out a little bit. There we go. And we have a 3, which is turned into the 4 for the Byzantines. Okay. So, basically then you come up here to the army combat table, and it's the die roll cross-referenced by how many strength points you have. So, the Ostrogoths had a total of 9 for their die roll, with 32 points. Yikes! Whew, that's a 9 hit loss. That's like half the army. Almost half the army. So, that army is going to drop from 16... No, actually, it's more than half. Yeah, see, I told you math wasn't very good for me. So, 16 minus 9 is 7. So, that army drops all the way down to... Oh, no. Hold on a second. I was looking at the wrong marker. The army of Eurikium actually has 27. So that would have been a +1 modifier. It's not going to matter much here, so it's actually going to be a 0 for the Ostrogoths. So they won't have any adjustment. But still, it's 8. So they're still going to bludgeon them down by a total of 9. So 27 minus 8 is 19. So the army of Eurikium gets pounded down to 19. Now they had a strength of 27, and they rolled a 4. So 4, strength of 27, That reduces them by 5. So, down they go. All right. Now, the loser, in this case Belisarius, which is almost like mind-boggling, the loser ends up with a defeated marker on him, and then he must retreat. So, defeated marker, and Belisarius has to come back. And he's going to have to obviously rebuild his army. So, too bad the Ostrogoths are already activated twice. Now they'll need random help, because otherwise they could cause a lot of problems. Now, the victorious army, excuse me, you roll against the control rating, which here is a 6. So I rolled a 2. That means they will be able to keep that completely under control. All right. Now, for Belisarius, I only have 3 movement points left. Remember, I only got 4 altogether. So what I can do is I can change his defeated army for 2 movement points to disorganized. But I only have 1 movement point left. Ah, what a bad, bad defeat for the Byzantines. Oh well. C'est la guerre, right? I guess so. Okay. Last 2 activations here. Now they're both going to be random. They're going to be green ones for the Barbarians. Let's see if we can get ourselves a random event here. Maybe. Okay, 40. So no, 4 plus 0 is 4. So no dice. And 40 on the chart is, let's see, that is the Franks, who will get 10 plus 2, or plus a dice roll, 2 dice. So they actually have 20. Ooh, that is ugly. Okay, that's bad. Alrighty, now we have to check their allegiance. Unfortunately, their automatic modifier for allegiance is -2, so they don't like the Byzantines a whole lot. Their leader rating is a C. So you know what? I'm going to gamble here. I'm going to spend 9 gold, which I really don't have, but I'm still going to spend it anyway. So 11 minus 9 is 2. So it'll take me down to 52. And now I'll have a +1 modifier. So I need a 7 or better. And if they end up on my side, if they get enough movement points, I can march them down to attack the Ostrogoths. Or I could use them to drive out the Alemanni. Let's see. It's a 0. Of course it is. Alright. Well. Not so good. Let's see how many movement points they get. Well, they only rolled a 1. So that's not too bad. So C and a 1. That is 3 movement points. But you know what? It's going to be helpful. Because watch this. 1, 2, 3. Boop! They're going to plop down and prevent it. And remember, at the beginning of next turn, you remove barbarian forces that are not in a city. What a mess I'm in. My, oh my, oh my. Okay. Byzantines, I'm going to try and build up that army before anybody has a chance to attack it. Here's open. I think my dice need a timeout. Look at that. It's a 1. I got 1 strength point. And I wasted an entire impulse to get 1 strength point. That's it. So I'm back up to 20. Hokey spoons, people. Alright. Last random activation. I'll just go ahead and finish this off. I know this video is running a little long, but I'll just finish up here. And then I'll make a few comments. And that'll be that. Last one here. Oh, look at that. 6 and 8 is the die roll, so that is 10 or more. We got ourselves a random event. So let's find out the random event. So we roll again. The random event is a 6. So we check the random event table. Religious disputes. I don't remember what that means in the rules. There was disputes, particularly in, it's been such a long time since I've studied this, but particularly in the area of Egypt and stuff, there was differing opinions on things. Here we go. What? When this event occurs, the Byzantine player loses his next activation opportunity, treated as a pass. So I don't get to do anything here at the end of the turn with the Byzantines. Wow, this has just been a wonderful, wonderful 4-year stretch of time. All right. Well, let's finish off this glorious turn by finding out who is 68 for the Barbarians. 68 are the Slavs. Now, the Slavs don't like the Byzantines a whole lot either. -1. Or -2. For their allegiance, they have a strength of 5. They just have a strength of a die roll. So it's not a very big army. Here's our friends, the Slavs. I'm not going to waste my gold. Forget it. Because they only have a value of D. So let's see how many movement points they get. 6 on the D scale. Let's see, 6. That's 4 movement points. Now, what I typically try to do with the Barbarians that are not going to be able to stick around, if I can't get them to a city, I have them attack the nearest Byzantine army. Because, hey, you know what? They might be able to take some enemy with them, right? But here, 1, 2, 3, these guys can settle into Thessalonica and hang out. So, epically bad turn. And now the Byzantines, their 5th one, remember, because of religious disputes, nothing happens. And that's that. So, I'll start the next turn. And the game lasts 10 turns maximum, or when the second plague happens. So, again, this is just kind of a light, easy game. It's not real complicated. The rulebook is, about 10 pages or so. Give or take a little bit. Okay, maybe a little more than that. Close to 15 pages, but, it's not very long. There's lots here that, familiar wargamer will have no trouble dealing with. If you know Berg's games, if you can play like Rise of the Roman Republic or Carthage, the First Punic War, you'll have no trouble playing this. This is pretty easy. This is pretty light. This is pretty breezy. How deep it is? It's not overly deep. Is it fun and fast and furious if you've got a Byzantine itch to scratch? Yeah, it's good for that. And it's good for just having fun. And quite frankly, I was in a position where I couldn't decide what to do. So I was debating, and I was like, you know what? I saw this on my shelf. You know how it is sometimes, games you haven't ignored for a while, they go, you don't forget about me. And it's like, oh yeah, you know what? Because last time I looked, I last played this 5 years ago. And before that, it was 5 years before that. So this is only the second time in a decade that I've played this game. So that tells you how much it hits my table. But again, I keep it because it is just kind of fun. There's not a whole lot of games out there on the Byzantine Empire. I had that S&T game, which I never have gotten around to playing and learning, which I really should. I also have the S&T Belisarius game, another game I've never gotten around to playing, and I probably should. But ancient history just doesn't interest me a whole lot anymore. I only have a handful of ancient history games, and I'll be honest, my interest peaked pretty much like when I was teaching it. Back in the early 2000s when ancient Rome and Greece were part of the bread and butter of my curriculum. I was really enjoying the ancient world and stuff. But since then, looking at my shelf here right now, just an eye shot, I've got Rise of the Roman Republic. I've got Carthage, First Punic War. I've got Mark Herman's awesome Peloponnesian War, which is being redone by GMT Games. I've signed up for that because I love Peloponnesian War. I got to see what the improvements are. I also have Pericles. I have Field Commander Alexander. And Hannibal. Almost every wargamer, it seems, is obligated to have some edition, some copy of Hannibal. Which, if I get into an ancient wargaming mode, I'll break that out because I actually splurge for the giant map. Also, because if I play it, I want to go deluxe, so to speak. So anyway, this game, it's fun. It's worth it if you like the Byzantine Empire. I honestly would probably not pay a whole lot for this game because, it's not the greatest game ever made, but it is fun. It is kind of light. It's kind of beer and pretzels. And again, you can play it solo quite well, too. Alright, next stop for me, I believe, once I get this game played, if I get it finished fast enough, I'm going to take a look at the Confederate Rebellion for you guys by White Dog Games. Speaking of White Dog Games, I hemmed and hawed over this for a while, debated, kicked it around, slept on it again, and finally decided to pick up their new Storm in the East game that, after reading over the extended example of play, I think is going to work out pretty well. I hope so. Plus, it's also only a Barbarossa game, which I am intrigued by those. Well, first of all, I'm intrigued by the East Front. I buy lots of East Front games, I'll be honest. Second, I love the East Front from about 41 to 43, about the time of Kursk. Actually, to be honest, more like the backhand blow. But, that's just my preference. Other people like the second half of the campaign, of the war, rather, and the campaigns that are part of that. But I just can't resist Barbarossa games. Because let's face it, as war gamers, what's one of the reasons we play? We play because of the what-if stuff. We want to know, well, what if this had happened? What if this strategy had been used? And to me, Barbarossa is one of the greatest, if not the absolute greatest, what-if scenarios in the history of the world. Because that campaign, I mean, if the Germans win it, just wow. You could drive yourself nuts thinking about the ramifications of that stuff. So I finally decided to go for it and pick it up. So if some of you are on the fence, stay tuned within the next couple of weeks. I will be working on getting that learned and getting a video made for that to share with you all. So, again, Justinian for me, thumbs up. I bought this game when it first came out, so I only paid retail for it, so I didn't play. I know the secondary market for Cataphract is pretty high. Because it's my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's my understanding it's one of the rare GBOH games out there. Anyway. So, next time we'll come to you from the south. Well, north and south, so to speak. But, hope you enjoyed this playthrough. Track this down again if you're a Byzantine Empire aficionado, or you like bird games. I think it's well worth that. Like I said, I'm keeping my copy of Cataphract because on the back of this map, there's a Cataphract map, and that's why I haven't parted with this, because I don't want to give this game up, even though I don't play it all that often. So, this has been Tim Korchnoi from Bare Bones Wargaming, saying thanks for watching, and next time we'll see you after Fort Sumter has been shelled. Thanks for watching.